I told Michael I couldn't pick up Sophie from school that Tuesday. I had a cardiology appointment I'd been postponing for 3 months. The silence on the other end of the phone lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. "You're kidding, right?" he finally said. I wasn't kidding. For the first time in 6 years, since Sophie started kindergarten, I was saying no. One afternoon, one simple no. That was all it took for my son to stop speaking to me. Let me back up, because I need you to understand how we got here. I need you to understand that I wasn't always the woman who stood in her kitchen at 63 years old, staring at her phone and wondering how her only child could treat her like a stranger. I used to be someone my son called Mom, with warmth in his voice. My name is Genevieve. I taught second grade for 37 years in a small school district outside Pittsburgh. I was never wealthy, but I was careful. My husband, Tom, passed away 9 years ago from lung cancer. He left me the house, paid off, and a decent life insurance policy. Not a fortune, but enough that I could retire at 59 and not worry about every grocery bill. After Tom died, Michael became my world. He was my only child. We'd wanted more, but it never happened, and after a while, we stopped trying. Michael was enough, more than enough. Smart, kind, ambitious. He met Vanessa during his junior year at Penn State, and I liked her right away. She was sharp, driven, studying hospital administration. They got married 2 years after graduation, and I helped where I could. I paid for half the catering at their wedding. Tom had just passed, and I wanted Michael to have something beautiful during such a dark time. When Vanessa got pregnant with Sophie, I was overjoyed. My first grandchild. I drove to their apartment in Philadelphia the day Sophie was born and held that tiny, perfect girl in my arms. I thought my heart would burst. They moved back to Pennsylvania when Sophie was 2. Michael got a job with a pharmaceutical company, traveling 3 or 4 days a week. Vanessa worked at the regional hospital, long shifts, unpredictable hours. They bought a house 15 minutes from mine, a beautiful colonial with a big backyard. I helped with the down payment. $25,000. It was half of Tom's life insurance money, but I didn't hesitate. Family helps family. That's when it started. Though I didn't see it that way at the time. I saw it as being needed. As finally having a purpose again after Tom died and my classroom was just a memory. Vanessa called one morning, frantic. Sophie's daycare had called. She was running a fever, and someone needed to pick her up. Michael was in Ohio for work. Vanessa had a budget meeting she couldn't miss. Could I possibly help? Of course I could. I dropped everything and drove to that daycare. Sophie's face lit up when she saw me. Even though she felt terrible, I took her home to my house, gave her children's Tylenol, made her chicken soup, let her watch cartoons on my couch. Vanessa picked her up at 7 that night. "You're a lifesaver, Genevieve," she said, and she meant it. I could tell. After that, I became the emergency contact. It made sense, they said. I was retired. I lived close. I was family. The daycare had my number on file, and then the elementary school did too when Sophie started kindergarten. I picked Sophie up 47 times in 4 years. I know because I kept track in my planner, the way teachers do. Fevers, stomach bugs, headaches. One time she fell on the playground and they thought she might have a concussion. Michael was always traveling, and Vanessa's hospital shifts were impossible to leave. So it was always me. I didn't mind. I loved Sophie. She was bright and funny and reminded me of Michael at that age. But I started to notice something around her 5th birthday. I realized Michael and Vanessa never asked if I was available. They just told me when to pick her up. The financial help continued too. Michael's travel schedule meant they ate out a lot or ordered takeout. Vanessa worked 10-hour days. Neither of them cooked much. I started bringing over dinners twice a week. Lasagna, pot roast, chicken, and rice. Things I could make in big portions and freeze for them. Then, there were the extras. Sophie needed new shoes every few months because she was growing so fast. I bought them. School supplies, birthday presents for her friends' parties, The deposit for summer camp? I handled it. When their water heater died 2 years ago, I wrote a check for $1,800 so they wouldn't have to use a credit card. Michael promised he'd pay me back, but he never did. I never asked. Family doesn't keep score, right? Except somewhere along the way, I stopped being family and became a service. I just didn't know it yet. The cardiology appointment was supposed to happen in March. I'd been having heart palpitations, nothing severe, but my primary care doctor wanted me to get checked out. The first available appointment was a Tuesday at 2 o'clock. I called Michael immediately to give him notice. "No problem, Mom," he said. "I'll be in town that week anyway." But the week before, his schedule changed. He had to fly to Denver. Could I possibly reschedule? I did. I moved it to May. Same thing happened. Michael's client meeting ran long. Could I just do it another day? By September, I'd rescheduled 4 times. My doctor's office called and said if I canceled again, I'd have to find a new cardiologist. The palpitations were getting worse. I'd wake up at night with my heart racing, feeling like I couldn't breathe. I called Michael on Monday. "I can't pick up Sophie tomorrow," I said. "I have my heart doctor appointment. It's important." That's when he got quiet. "Mom, I'm in Boston tomorrow. I have a presentation." "I know, honey. But I've rescheduled this 4 times already. Can Vanessa leave work early? Vanessa has a site inspection at 3. She can't miss it." "What about the neighbor? The one with the daughter in Sophie's class?" "Mom," his voice had an edge now, "you're her emergency contact. You're always available. That's the whole point. Always available." Those words sat in my chest like a stone. "Michael, I've picked her up 47 times in 4 years. Surely Vanessa can manage one afternoon." 47 times. He laughed. But it wasn't a kind laugh. "You're counting?" "That's what grandmothers do, Mom. They help." "I am helping. I've been helping. But I need to see my doctor. So go in the morning, get an early appointment." This was the only time they had. If I cancel again, I lose this cardiologist. Another long silence. When he spoke again, his voice was cold. "You know what, Mom? Vanessa was right. She said you'd do this eventually." "Do what?" "Decide you're too busy for your own granddaughter." The accusation knocked the breath out of me. "That's not fair, Michael. This is about my health." "It's one afternoon. I'm sure your heart can wait one more day." But it couldn't. I couldn't. For the first time in 6 years, I held firm. "I'm sorry, but no. You'll need to find someone else tomorrow." He hung up without saying goodbye. I sat in my kitchen for an hour after that call, my hands shaking. I'd never said no to Michael before. Not once. Not about babysitting, not about money, not about anything. The guilt was suffocating. But I went to my appointment. My cardiologist ran tests, prescribed medication for the palpitations, and referred me to a specialist. "You did the right thing coming in," she said. "If you'd waited much longer, this could have become serious." I texted Michael that evening. "Everything okay with Sophie's pickup?" No response. I tried calling the next morning. He didn't answer. I called Vanessa's cell, straight to voicemail. By the end of the week, I was panicking. I drove to their house Friday evening. Michael's car was in the driveway. I could see lights on inside, could hear Sophie's voice through an open window. I rang the doorbell. Vanessa answered. She blocked the doorway with her body. "Hi, sweetie," I said, trying to sound normal. "I just wanted to check on everyone. Michael hasn't been returning my calls." "We've been busy," Vanessa said. Her tone was pleasant, but her eyes were hard. "Can I come in? See Sophie?" "Sophie's doing homework. I could help her. I used to be a teacher, remember?" "We've got it handled, Genevieve." Genevieve. Not Mom, like she'd been calling me for years. My stomach dropped. "Is something wrong? Did I do something?" Vanessa tilted her head, studying me. "You made your priorities very clear this week." "My priorities?" "Vanessa, I had a medical appointment." "You had a choice," she said quietly. "You chose yourself over Sophie." The words were so absurd I almost laughed. I've chosen Sophie hundreds of times. Thousands of times. I've never said no before. Exactly. So we thought we could count on you. I guess we were wrong. She closed the door before I could respond. I stood on their porch, stunned. This couldn't be happening. One appointment, one no in 6 years, and suddenly I was the villain? I went home and cried for the first time since Tom's funeral. The weekend passed with no word from Michael. Sunday morning, I went to church like always. I sat in my usual pew, but I couldn't focus on the sermon. All I could think about was Sophie. Was she okay? Did she wonder why Grandma hadn't visited? Monday morning, my phone rang, finally. But it was Vanessa, not Michael. Genevieve, quick question. Did you mean to skip the deposit for Sophie's gymnastics this month? It was due last week. I'd forgotten completely. In the chaos of the appointment and the silent treatment, it had slipped my mind. I'd been paying for Sophie's gymnastics for 2 years, $85 a month. I'm sorry, I said. I'll send a check today. Great, thanks. Also, the school's fall festival is next weekend. They need volunteers. Can you work the face painting booth Saturday afternoon? They weren't speaking to me, but they wanted my money and my time. Something shifted in my chest, not my heart palpitations. Something else, something colder. I'll have to check my schedule, I said. You're retired, Vanessa said, like I'd told a joke. What schedule? I'll get back to you. I hung up before she could respond. That afternoon, I sat down with my bank statements and a legal pad. I'd always been good with numbers. 37 years of managing classroom supply budgets taught me to track spending carefully. I went back through 2 years of records. Every check I'd written to Michael and Vanessa, every cash withdrawal with Sophie noted in my ledger. The shoes, the camp deposits, the water heater, the dinners I'd bought groceries for, the birthday gifts. The total made me nauseous. $32,000 in 2 years. I was living on a pension and Social Security. I'd been dipping into Tom's life insurance money without realizing how much. Worse, I calculated the hours. The 47 emergency pickups, the twice-weekly dinners I'd cooked, the weekends I'd babysat so they could go to weddings or have date nights. Assuming an average of 4 hours per event, that was over 800 hours, the equivalent of 5 months of full-time work. I'd given them half a year of my life and a year's worth of my income, and the first time I said no, they cut me off. My neighbor, Dorothy, came over that evening with a casserole. She was 68, a widow like me, and we'd become close over the years. She knew something was wrong the moment she saw my face. I told her everything over tea. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Honey," she finally said, "do you know what they call someone who gets paid to be on call 24/7 and handle emergencies?" "What?" "An employee. And employees get salaries, benefits, and days off. You've been working for free, and the first time you took a sick day, they fired you." The truth of it hit me like cold water. "But they're my family," I whispered. "Are they treating you like family? Or like staff?" I didn't have an answer. Dorothy squeezed my hand. My daughter pulled something similar when my grandsons were little. I was the free babysitter, the emergency backup, the ATM. One day, I told her I was taking a cruise with my sister, something I'd been planning for a year. She told me I was being selfish. Selfish? For taking one vacation after watching her kids twice a week for 3 years. "What did you do?" "I went on the cruise. Best decision of my life." When I got back, she barely spoke to me for 6 months. But you know what? Eventually, she apologized. She realized she'd been taking advantage. Now we have boundaries. I see my grandsons every Sunday for dinner, but the rest of my time is mine. "They'll never apologize," I said. "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean you have to keep giving." I thought about that conversation all night. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I called the school first and told them I needed to be removed as Sophie's primary emergency contact. I could be the backup, but not the first call. The secretary was surprised, but made the change. Then I called my bank and canceled the automatic transfer I'd set up 6 months ago. $50 a week went from my checking to Michael's account for groceries. I'd forgotten I'd even made it automatic. I didn't cancel it out of spite. I canceled it because I looked at my retirement account balance and felt afraid. I was 63. I could live another 25 years, if I was lucky. At the rate I was spending, I'd run out of money by 70. I wasn't going to be a burden to Michael in my old age. Ironically, the only way to ensure that was to stop being his burden now. I drafted a text to Michael. I love you and Sophie more than anything, but I can't continue with the current arrangement. I'm happy to babysit when you ask in advance, and I'm available. I can't be the primary emergency contact anymore. I need to manage my health and my finances. I hope you understand. I stared at it for 20 minutes before hitting send. His response came 3 hours later. Unbelievable. That was it. One word. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. No calls, no texts, no visits. I drove past their house twice and saw Michael's car, saw Sophie playing in the backyard. I wanted so badly to stop, to knock on the door, to apologize even though I knew I'd done nothing wrong. But Dorothy's words kept echoing. Employees get days off. Then Michael called. My hands shook when I answered. Mom. His voice was tight. We need to talk. Okay. Vanessa's grandmother was supposed to watch Sophie next weekend. She fell and broke her hip. Can you take Sophie Saturday and Sunday? He didn't ask how I was. Didn't mention the 2 weeks of silence. What time? I heard myself say. Saturday morning, 8. We'll pick her up Sunday evening. Michael, wait. I need to ask something first. Silence. Why haven't you called? Why are you punishing me for going to the doctor? Punishing you? He sounded genuinely confused. Mom, we've been busy. Life doesn't stop just because you can't handle your responsibilities. My responsibilities? Sophie. Family. That's what grandparents do. They help. There it was again. That word, help. But help implied a choice, didn't it? Help was voluntary. I've been helping for 6 years, I said quietly. Every emergency, every favor, every bill, I've been there. And now you're not. So we have to scramble. Do you know how hard it is to find reliable childcare? Something inside me finally broke. Not my heart. Something else. The part that had been bending and bending and bending for 6 years, trying to be enough. Then hire someone, I said. What? Hire a babysitter. Someone reliable who can be on call. That's what you need, isn't it? An employee, not a grandmother. Mom, what are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you haven't asked me how I'm doing in 2 weeks. You didn't ask about my cardiologist appointment. You haven't asked if I'm okay. You called because you need something. You're being dramatic. Am I? Michael, when was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you asked about my life? He sighed, long and exasperated. I don't have time for this. Can you watch Sophie or not? Not this weekend, I said. I have plans. I didn't. But that didn't matter. Seriously? We really need you. I'm sorry. I can't. I hung up before he could argue. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set the phone down. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was something else. Something that felt almost like relief. Michael didn't call back. A week later, Sophie's birthday came and went. I'd sent a card and a gift certificate to her favorite bookstore. Michael texted, "Thanks for the gift card." Nothing else. Not even a photo of Sophie opening it. I cried that night, mourning something I couldn't quite name. The relationship we'd had, or the relationship I'd thought we had. Another month passed. I started filling my days with things I'd been too busy for. I joined a book club at the library, started volunteering at the elementary school where I used to teach, helping current teachers grade papers and organize supplies, reconnected with old colleagues. Dorothy and I took a weekend trip to Niagara Falls. It was the first time I'd left town in 5 years. I felt lighter, freer. But the ache never fully went away. I missed Sophie terribly. I wondered if she asked about me, if Michael and Vanessa had told her I didn't want to see her anymore. The thought made me sick. Then, 3 days before Thanksgiving, my phone rang. Michael, Mom, can we come over? We need to talk. They showed up an hour later, all three of them. Sophie ran to me the moment she saw me, wrapping her arms around my waist. I held her tight, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo, fighting back tears. I missed you, Grandma, she whispered. I missed you too, sweetheart. We sat in my living room. Sophie colored at the coffee table, while Michael and Vanessa sat stiffly on the couch. I'm sorry, Michael said, finally. The words sounded forced, but he said them. I didn't realize how much we were asking of you. I waited. Vanessa's grandmother's accident made us scramble for childcare. We had to hire someone. It's costing us $400 a week. $400 for what I'd been doing for free. We didn't realize how much you were covering, Vanessa added. Her voice was softer than I'd heard in months. Not just the time, but the money too. Michael's parents mentioned you'd helped with the down payment on the house. I didn't know that. I wanted to help, I said. But we took advantage, Michael said. He looked at Sophie, then back at me. She's been asking about you constantly. Why you don't come over anymore. Why you don't pick her up from school. His voice cracked. I told her you were busy, but the truth is, we pushed you away. Yes, I said simply. You did. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Genevieve. We took you for granted. You were always there, so we assumed you always would be. When you said no, I felt betrayed. But I was wrong. You're not our employee. You're Sophie's grandmother. Your family. Family. The word I'd been waiting to hear. I love you both, I said carefully. And I love Sophie more than anything. But I can't go back to the way things were. I need boundaries. For my health, my finances, and my sanity. Michael nodded. We understand. We want to do better. We talked for 2 hours that day. Really talked, for the first time in years. We agreed I'd watch Sophie one afternoon a week, scheduled in advance. Emergencies would be split between us and the babysitter they'd hired. I'd attend Sophie's school events and activities, but I wasn't obligated to volunteer for everything. Most importantly, they'd stop expecting financial help. They were adults with good jobs. They could budget their own expenses. And I want us to have dinners together, I added. Not me cooking for you. Us, together, taking turns hosting. I want Sophie to see that families spend time together because they love each other, not because someone needs something. Deal, Michael said. It wasn't perfect. We had to renegotiate boundaries several times over the next few months. Old habits crept back occasionally. But the difference was, now we talked about it. Michael would ask if I could babysit and actually wait for my answer instead of assuming. When Vanessa's car broke down, they borrowed money from her parents instead of expecting me to cover it. Sophie and I had dinner together every Wednesday evening, sometimes at my house, sometimes at theirs. We cooked together, laughed together, and I finally got to be her grandmother instead of her babysitter. On my 64th birthday, Michael and Vanessa took me to dinner at the nicest restaurant in town. Sophie made me a card that read, "To the best grandma, who taught me that it's okay to say no sometimes." I cried when I read it. As I blew out the candles on my birthday cake that night, surrounded by my son, my daughter-in-law, and my beautiful granddaughter, I realized something. Love shouldn't require you to disappear. Real family doesn't keep score. But they also don't keep taking until there's nothing left. I'd taught second grade for 37 years. I'd taught hundreds of children that they mattered, that their feelings were valid, that they deserved respect. It took me 63 years to teach myself the same lesson, but better late than never.